Hey guys, it's Indigo Flow Arts here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some things I wish I knew before starting my hoop journey. Hula hooping is such a wonderful hobby, it's a wonderful world, a wonderful community, but it's not necessarily very accessible for beginners who know nothing about hoop terminology or how to buy a hula hoop or anything like that. So I'm here to share my knowledge with you and some things I wish I knew. So to start off with a little bit of backstory about my hoop journey. My hoop journey started technically this month last year, so my hoopiversary is this weekend. Actually, it's today. Woo! So I was first introduced to hooping in the summer of 2015 during Electric Forest. That was my first year at Electric Forest and my first exposure to flow arts in general. And of course I was amazed by it, I was blown away by it, and I wanted to do a flow art of my own. But I wasn't sure what that was going to be until after Electric Forest. Instead of buying my own hula hoop, I tried to make one myself, and at the time I thought I had horribly failed, and now looking back on the hoop, it wasn't an epic fail, but it was a little bit too big for exactly what I wanted to use it for and how I wanted to learn how to hoop. So, I did it for about a day or two, and then I said, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. And it wasn't until the next year at Electric Forest that I really got serious about it. So someone in my camping group had bought a hula hoop on the first day, and he let me play with it for the remainder of the weekend, and by the end of the weekend I was pretty much sold on it. So I went to one of the hoop vendors and bought my first two hoops at Electric Forest 2016. And from there I've pretty much been hooping every day since. So to start out, definitely the most intimidating factor about starting hooping is all the terminology and all the different types of hoops that you can buy. Things that you have to keep in mind when buying your first hula hoop are the diameter of the hoop, the thickness of the tubing, the material of the hoop, so that would be either polypro, HDPE, or PE, polyethylene, and PSI level. Alright, so hoop diameter. That one's pretty straightforward. You know what the diameter of a circle is, right? It's the point from the top to the bottom. The only thing that is a little bit complicated about hula hoop diameter is that every place you buy a hula hoop from measures diameter differently. So they'll either measure it by inner diameter, which is the distance from inside surface to inside surface, or outer diameter, which is the measure from outside surface to outside surface. Okay, and you might not think that it's a big deal, but once you get a little bit more into hooping and you have precise measurements that work for you, or a precise tubing size that works for you, you want to be very aware of how your hoop shop measures their diameter. Sometimes shops won't give you a refund if you order the wrong hoop tubing, because a lot of them do mention whether they measure inner or outer diameter, so definitely make sure you check on that before you purchase a hoop. Next is tubing thickness. So the thickness that you decide on is really going to depend on your personal preference. This hoop here is a 3/4 inch diameter. If you have any hoops, or you don't know the thickness of your hoop and you want to measure it, you can take the connection out and then measure from top to bottom here, and that should tell you your tubing thickness. So in order, the thickness goes from 1/2 to 5/8, 11/16, which is also considered a Goldilocks, 3/4, and 1 inch, and that's from smallest to largest, or thinnest to thickest. Usually the recommended size for beginners is 3/4 or 1 inch, but I personally started out with a 1/2 inch hoop and I was fine. It really does depend on your preference and what type of tricks you want to learn at first. Probably the most confusing of the hoop terms is the type of tubing. Now again, this is another factor that's up to user preference, but recommended for beginners is usually a polyethylene hoop. Polyethylene hoops are typically all black tubing. They're very hard. It's the hardest type of tubing you can buy, and it's recommended for beginners because of its thickness and its weight. Because typically the heavier your hoop is, the slower it moves. Same for diameter. The bigger the hoop diameter is, the slower it moves. So that's a lot easier for beginners who are trying to get the motions down, or even if you're an intermediate hooper and you want to practice some new tricks at a more slow pace. It's a lot easier to do so with a bigger hoop. Polyethylene hoops are also the easiest to make. You can just go to your local hardware store, and in the plumbing section they have giant coils of polyethylene tubing. HDPE tubing is just a step down in hardness from PE tubing. This hoop, I don't know if any of you have ever seen it before. I don't really post videos with it because it's very big, but this is kind of like my practice hoop if I really want to go slow. And yeah, I guess there's really not much to say about it besides it's a step down in thickness from polyethylene hoops. And I guess if you want a little bit more weight on your hoops without adding PSI, which I'll get to in a second, then HDPE hoops are good because they're heavier than polypro hoops. Hopefully that's rain, not pee. So yes, these are slightly lighter than polyethylene hoops, but heavier than polypro hoops, and these could be recommended for any level of hooper. And then we have the classic polypro hoop. This is definitely the most widely used hoop tubing type of any type of hoops, just because it's lightweight, it's fast, it's a great performance hoop if you're into that, or if you just want to get into, you know, some more advanced things, or improve your strength or balance with hooping. Polypro is a great choice, but I wouldn't suggest it for people who are just starting out, only because of how light it is. It can be very frustrating to learn with. The last, PSI level, this is also pretty simple. PSI just means pressure per square inch, and it's a measurement of how much water can go through the hoop tubing at one time, and that's because hoop tubing is typically made from irrigation tubing or gardening tubing. So the PSI is there just for technical reasons, but it pretty much just means how heavy the hoop is going to be. 100 PSI is, I believe, the lightest weight a hoop can be, and that's typically, you know, that's pretty standard of what you'll find from hoops and hoop shops. So just know the higher the number, the heavier the tubing. The next thing that I wish I knew before starting my hoop journey was to test out as many different hoops as possible before you buy a hoop for yourself. Now, this is especially referring to if you plan on buying your first hoop online. I would not recommend doing that. I would recommend getting your first hoop in person. So if you know anybody who has a hoop shop nearby where you can go and visit them and get a custom hoop made, or if you have any friends who hula hoop, you could even go to Five Below or Walmart and play with the kiddie hoops just to test size out. You just want to know how comfortable you're going to be with the hula hoop in your hand before you buy one. That's why I really valued being able to use my friend's hoop at Electric Forest, because that helped me decide, okay, I can get used to this. This is something that comes naturally to me. I really like it. The size of his was really big because he's a lot taller than me, but, then when I went to the hoop shop to buy my hoops, I told them my situation, Something that's easy to use for beginners who doesn't know anything about size or thickness or weight or anything like that. I literally knew nothing when I bought my first hoops. The more you know about your personal preferences with hooping before you buy your first hoop, the better. Alright, and back to what I was saying about beginner hoops. A lot of people recommend that for size, you select a diameter that goes from your belly button to the floor. Personally, my beginner size was smaller than that, and this was an issue that I ran into when I made my own hoop. I followed those recommendations, and the hoop ended up being way too big. And on top of that, I knew nothing about PSI, so the hoop was also way too heavy, and I could pretty much only waist hoop with it, but it was still difficult to do that because the hoop was too heavy. So, for an example, this hoop is a 33-inch hoop, and it's HDPE, so it's pretty hard, not too malleable to the point where it'll become misshapen, unless you don't take care of it, of course. It's very important to take good care of your hoops. Another video on that eventually. But basically, this is a 33-inch hoop. And as you can see, it's touching my toes right now, but it still comes well underneath my belly button. It's about 4 inches of space between the hoop and my belly button. But I find that this is the perfect beginner size for me. Another thing that I realized as I started my hoop journey was that hooping becomes a lot easier when you're constantly moving. Okay? The hula hoop thrives on momentum. So if you're doing an isolation and you want to go into another trick, you're going to have to kind of move your body in some direction to kind of give the hoop some leverage, if you will, give it some momentum. You know, if you like jump around, that'll give the hoop a little bit more momentum. So just always moving with the hoop, moving your head, turning to face the hoop, etc. So always make sure you're moving with the hoop. That's the best way to have fun with it. So to end this video on a positive note, I just want you guys to remember to have fun with your hoop journey. You know, it really is all about you, and when you're ready to put yourself in the community, there's tons of people who are ready and willing to help or just support you and follow you on your journey. I've already made so many friends just through social media because of hooping and going to meetups and just putting myself out there, you know. Having an online community also really helps keep me motivated, and it inspires me to learn new tricks, new combos, meet new people, gain confidence, anything like that. You know, going to festivals or shows is also a great way to meet people. So if you desire to be engaged in a community, please connect with me on Instagram, connect with other people that you find or know through Instagram, Facebook, community events. It really doesn't matter. And just remember, your flow is unique to you. Don't have to try to copy anyone else. Just be yourself, have fun with it, and your unique style of hooping will emerge as you teach yourself new tricks. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. If there's any other videos you want to see, please let me know. I plan on making a few tutorial videos and some more talking videos like this, and of course I'll always be posting hooping videos on Instagram. So I hope to see you guys there, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.